Right, well, after the grumpiness of going over the rules, I'm ready to start, and I think I've got everything set up. The first turn's a little different from every other turn. A couple of things I didn't explain there. First of all, each player only gets 4 cards. It starts here in May, June. It would normally be 10 US, 9 British, modified, of course. Also, let's see. The Brits are going to go first on the first turn of the game, and then the US goes first until Napoleon's defeated, after which the Brits go first again. Well, let's look at some of the cards, see what we have here, and what we might want to do. I'm not sure what it is. Okay, that looks kind of neat, to randomly destroy a ship. However, it's a big 3 card. Play before a land battle, your forces have an additional leader with a tactical rating of 3 for this battle. That could be a big deal if I'm going to launch an attack. On the other hand, let's see some of these others. Battle losses are increased by 2 for both sides. I probably don't want to take casualties, I'm not sure, but it feels like the Brits probably don't terribly want to lose units. And heavy rains, I can play that as kind of, well, 3 of these cards are reactions. I can play that as kind of a way to, slow the opponent down if he's moving somewhere quickly. So there are some designer's notes here. They're more really, the first page of them is more just play notes more than anything else, really. A little bit about designer's notes here, but a lot of it has to do with what you want to do in the game. And then the rest looks like it's all a description and historical action effects of the cards. More historical notes on the cards, which, I guess that's kind of cool compared to, you could find historical notes on the war, like a historical discussion of the war, but this links it directly to the cards and gives you a little bit more information on them. I'm not sure, let's take a look at and see how this kind of interacts with what's here, see if there's any that, yeah, so these 1 through 8 major campaign, okay, let's see what things like 107 and 108 have. My guess is that there's not a lot of information on them, but I'm not sure. It seems like some of them do. Some of the more generic do have it. Ships would sink, yeah, momentary incompetence, they're always men. Yeah, those are pretty generic answers coming back to them. All right. Well, at this point, we have to kind of try to figure out what our goal is in the game, right? We want to move the victory charts. One thing that the designer's notes, and that's why I pulled them out, mention is that it's important to take Mackinac for the Brits. So, in order to take that early, I got a couple of units. There's a fort there. A fort with no troops. What the hell does that mean? I think it means I won't have to fight if I just walk there. So that seems like a pretty good goal. My leader up there, McDonald, has only a 2. So I can spend this card that I didn't really want to use to activate him and see if I can get him moving there. Now, he's got only light troops, so he can move across this to the location. What is that going to mean? I think, by the way that wilderness movement is described, has to stop when entering an enemy location or settled area. Well, this is an enemy location. So that's as far as I'm going to be able to go, but I can't just automatically do it. And I think these player aid cards are the same, to tell you the truth. The operations points are kind of skewed. They're differentiated between the 2 charts, I guess. So where's the wilderness movement? I'm going to roll 1 die. I have to roll a 7 or higher. Modifications to leadership, tactical is +2. Movements on the Great Lakes, that puts a +4, right? Yep, it's a blue line there. Do I have voyageurs? Well, I don't know. I don't know what's what in the units, so I'm going to have to look that sucker up. Voyageurs are these red with the kind of dumpy pants, and that is indeed that. So I'm at +4, where's that? +5. Not all Indians, not friendly. It enters an enemy location, so I'm back down to +4. And that allows me to move. So I have now taken this location. I think I put a little flag there to indicate that I've taken it. It doesn't really give me anything except the location. So I don't know how much value there is. But that's all I get to do on this action. Let's think a little bit about what the U.S. is going to do here. Let's open up a little room so I can... All right. And you can see I've got this whole huge deck. Nothing gets added, nothing, it's just this pile of cards, which is really random. No scripting here. So in particular, Jean Lafitte, who only showed up in the actual game, in the actual war, right for the, in 1814 at the Battle of New Orleans. 1815? Maybe. Seems to go to 15, but I think it was in 14. I'd have to look that up. Maybe it was early in 15. So he'll show up in New Orleans with an expedition. They may not leave New Orleans. If forced to retreat, they're removed. That's tasty. It's a reaction card. So I might actually want to stow that. I wonder what this little red star is. Do all reaction cards have that? They don't. Maybe that means there's counters to go with it. Maybe it explains it somewhere, but I don't remember such. Yeah, there's no note of what that is. It could be a printing error for all I know, but it looks pretty damn specific. Okay, let's look at some of these others. William Clark, the governor of Missouri, organizes an expedition into the wilderness. Place an expedition containing Zachary Taylor and 2 rangers in St. Louis. This comes out of play after being played. Now, this is not a game where you particularly are worried about, oh, wow, I don't want to give up a 3 card for that. Because the value of you may want to not want to give up a 3 card for this action, but you don't. The fact that this card gets removed from play isn't really a big deal because A, it's this huge shared deck, and B, well, not only is it huge, but it's shared, which means that the Brits are as likely as I am to draw this and be able to use it. There's no real desire to remove this from play. If the Brits had it, they can't get rid of it. It just goes back in. Now, there are reshuffle events, I think, but your opponent must reveal his cards to you. Cards which have been saved, do not have to be shown. I don't think that's terribly bad. Oh, look, 5 points. This is the unrest in Upper Canada, and I had to correct something there. The British must have at least 10 strength points, at least 5 regulars in Upper Canada. If not, advance the British peace track of space. This card remains out until the British meet the troop requirements. Each turn they begin with the card still in play. Advance the British peace. So 10 strength points in Upper Canada, 5 of which are regulars. Well, the problem is I don't know what's in these expeditions. They're hidden. But I do know what the start of play is. So let's take a look at what's in Upper Canada. Upper Canada is, I believe, this line here. So we have 2 strength points. Well, C is in there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It looks like their initial hand is pretty good for that. So this may not be something I want to do. at this point, although it would limit their ability to maybe attack out of Upper Canada. I'm not sure. I'm having a tough time deciding because I don't know what I'm trying to do particularly. Jean Lafitte can do me a lot of good here. I have, the always excellent General Wilkinson. Great. Yeah, he's totally useless. Well, that's somebody I could use the 5-point card for. I have a lot of crappy leaders here, actually. J. Brown. Who's this? W.H. Hall. And then Van Rensselaer, who gets worse when you improve him. He's B over here. That should be in Buffalo. Yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing. I have fleets to work on. I could start that. This port starts active. What's on the other side of these port active markers? The cost to rebuild the port. So that is that 3 points. Well, it seems like naval operations are a good idea. I can't do anything over on Michigumi, but I could start building up Erie. Now, again, I'm not supposed to look, but I know that there's not a whole hell of a lot there. 2 schooners. So I'm going to play my trader's card because I can't decide if I want to use these for their events. But I'm pretty sure I don't want to play that. And upgrade, who's where? What are my ports here? Charlotte and Sackett's Harbor are over on Ontario. Charlotte's over here. What does that little tiny anchor mean? That means I can't build ships there. I'm taking it. Fort Oswego is also there, though. That has limited building capabilities. There is no Ontario fleet. If I can get Ontario, I can screw with the Brits. But it's only a 3-point card. I need to look. How much does a road cost me? Stage road costs 2. And it's only a stage road. It's not going to make things terribly cheaper, but I need to do that in order to get the Sackett's Harbor bonus there. So that's somewhat attractive to get some boats built up there. How good a leader is this guy? He's pretty crappy. I'm not sure he's what I want to... Oliver Hazard Perry is awesome. Jeez. Well, I'm going to open up Lake Erie, I guess, for building. Again, I'm kind of blundering my way through, right? That's just the nature of things for me. This is not a game that I can really clearly, the Mr. Madison's War, I could see kind of what I needed to do. Here, it's a lot tougher. I've got a lot more world. It's not these little channels like, running down the Hudson and the lake and then the west. This is... I've got everything open, but not everything is terribly usable. Do I want to take Mobile? Why? It's not even a port. Well, because that doesn't matter. I could land troops there. But again, I don't think that's terribly important. What I think is important right now is the lake area. that should be the most vital thing for me. All right, I need a break to refresh after all this uncertainty as to what I should be doing. So I'll put these dice over there to let me know what the Brits are doing. Right after some significant thinking, what I've decided to do is to spend this heavy rains card. I don't think trying to slow down the mobility of U.S. forces at this point is terribly valuable to me. And I'm going to draw a leader for New Brunswick. Why New Brunswick? Well, my overall plan is actually to slowly move down. I'm sorry, not New Brunswick. I'm going to build it up. Yeah, New Brunswick, not Nova Scotia. I had been thinking about trying to move the forces by naval movement down to Mobile. That doesn't seem terribly useful. It would be very expensive because each move of a sea zone would cost me an activation. I could do that more cheaply than by troops and then just move the individual forces. But what I'm saying is there's kind of an open path down here. Portsmouth there is a minor city. That's not really worth victory points, but it could be kind of an annoyance factor. And Hartford's a major city, so I'd be putting a threat perhaps on the New Englanders. So let's see what I get here. And it looks like I get somebody pretty decent. I can't read his name. Not with my eyes. Maybe Diamond or Desmond, something like that. And he's going to create his own little force up here in New Brunswick with an F. Now, that in terms of victory points, what I'm looking at there is a major city. Would be what I'm aiming for there, I guess. I don't know. I can't do attacks, say, to get towards Richmond or Washington until I can get a blockade in place. And likewise down here, these forts, they're open and empty and easy to take. So that's kind of appealing, for the U.S. What do I want to do? It's really hard to make my decisions here, like I said, without knowing what I'm doing. Right now, it looks to me like an expedition in the wilderness might not be a bad idea. I'll get Zachary Taylor and 2 Rangers out in St. Louis. Oh, way back here. Now with the Mackinac, this may be my only chance to get these. Another option would be to say, I'm not in that much danger. I could just store a card for later. How much danger am I in, though? Well, these locations are not settlements, so they're not going to stop the Brits from moving. So St. Louis could fall if I'm not careful. So I'm gonna play William Clark and get him out there, and I'll come back and report what else I do. Okay, so the English have been playing all their cards. I don't know what I did with them. The 3-pointer. Trying to remember what the hell I did. I know what I just did, which was to start building a brig over here at Amherstburg. I want to make sure that I've got a decent force at Lake Erie so that I can face anything that Perry has out there. Right now I have the advantage there. I think I spent a card to sail Yo out onto Lake Ontario, just to give me the action there. Kind of not necessary, I don't think. You don't really need to take the lakes right away, but they do preserve my supply lines going out through the waterways. And if I am forced to fight, or if I choose to fight, I want to be fully in supply, I guess. It's not that big a deal because my forces aren't that big. I also spent the last 3 to build that brig and then to drive a couple of units down from here at Quebec. Those aren't doing me any good in Quebec. There's no northern route or northeastern route to Quebec in this game. So we're not going to see the Benedict Arnold type move up there. I didn't end up moving this. It was a matter of I could move these for a point each. I couldn't move this without using up a good card. The Americans, though, are going to just bank their second good card. This one, hey, I may want Lafitte. And this one, well, it's a lot of points and a lot of power. And remember, there's no real cost to banking cards, which is kind of the only cost you have is the fact that the guy who's not banking cards is able to do things a little more quickly. And now we're at the end of the turn. And I guess what we're going to do is draw our new cards. And our Secretary of War does not help us, as I mentioned. So as we slide into this turn, the U.S. is going to get 8 cards and the Brits 6. So now the U.S. has a big hand of cards. They have the option to go first, and they can't just pass. But they can just bury cards and build up a huge hand for later, which is kind of weird. I'm wondering if that's not the best option, except for one thing. What is this? Vercenes is kind of threatened, and that's my port over here on Champlain. I think I'm going to have to build up some forces there, or else my navy in Champlain is going to be threatened. I also have to worry about other possible launches, you know, an attack coming down this way now that there's a leader there, etc. So I'm going to have to take some proactive choices here, but I'll deal out the cards first and then move to the next turn. We open things up in the new turn, and I look over my cards. I think this is the must play. Here it says event must be played in 1812. Not a lot of strong, you know, standout to let you know that. It would be pretty easy to just say, I just want the event, I just want the action points off of it, but as opposed to say the remove after playing is an event, which is pretty clear. But this is going to screw the U.S. I think it can be played at any time, but the U.S. is forced to play this now that it's in their hand this turn at some point. They can't bury it or anything like that. What they did instead was played this Laura Secord card just for the points. They built up some extra forces and took a leader here. And for the Brits, they have this political intrigue card. And my feeling is, well, I know what the starting leaders are in most places. And there's basically one good leader, maybe 2 good leaders on the board. Yeah, just one good American leader. I can only pick land leaders. I can get this L. Brown. He's at Sacket Harbor. And I can get him knocked out of his command. I know he exists, supposedly. I'm not sure how that card's supposed to be handled normally because these are kind of secret. So I would pick the force. So what you do is, you pick an expedition and then one leader chosen randomly. But, you know, so normally I would just be saying, I have no idea who's where. But at this point, I know there's a good leader there. So I want to trash him now. That seems more valuable. Normally, I probably wouldn't know who the leader is unless I'd gotten in a fight or something. So I'd maybe hold it for points or something like that. This is important because it gets rid of a leader out of U.S. control. And I think this actually creates no longer a force here, as it were. So, yeah, I can leave it there because the U.S. may well build a force. I'm not sure that the information... Shit, these aren't all... Yeah, I'm not sure that the information that there's no leader there is actually present either for me. It's not really clear there. Let me see if expeditions are defined as having to have a leader. I think they are, but I'm not sure where. I did find, it would probably be here if anywhere, I did find under the Cav and artillery, that's where the asterisks are explained. It's sparse in some things, not in others. Yeah, I'm not sure that I lose the expedition just because there's a leader missing. I think I have... Oh no, I know what I have. I have a replacement leader. Woohoo! And he's really not that much worse than most of my leaders. Such is life. Now it's back on the U.S. side. I've got to kind of decide what I'm doing, whether or not I need to take the initiative at this point for some reason. Most of my leaders I can't move except with this really rich card that I kind of don't want to play. I have a couple 3-point leaders. Where are they? G and H. G is out here. H is my new one that I built to help defend the port there. I don't want to lose my ports. So I've got to kind of try to figure out what the hell I'm going to do. I probably want to build that road to Sacket Harbor. That's expensive, though. I think that takes a 2 card. Do I want to be able to jump a turn? I don't know if that's that important to me. I'm kind of holding this because it'll allow me to can one of my leaders if he loses a fight or something. This one will let me build a fort. But more important than just building a fort, which I can do with any old card, it allows me to increase a fort by 1 level, which, you know, I'm not sure. Something like this, I could get up to level 3 at Buffalo with a 1-point card, which is pretty sweet too. So I got a lot of different options in mind. I think we have some exciting things happened here. First of all, the English played this big 4-pointer. I built that road, if I didn't mention that. They built this big 4-point card to using a nice U.S. event to build up some fencibles. Remember, I can't build regulars. I get them off cards or something, I guess. To build some fencibles here, and those don't get a no build counter. And I also advanced myself a schooner at Amherstburg. Again, I'm kind of worried about Perry. He's a pretty good leader. Yo's got a decent little fleet, although I do need to upgrade that because there's a fair-sized fleet here at Ontario, but I'm worrying about Ontario right now. My plan is to march into Sacket Harbor, and that, you know, that is the decent shipbuilding location, especially now that the road's in place. The Americans upgraded the fort in Buffalo, kind of ignoring what the Brits are doing in terms of building up forces. And so the Brits are going to do the exciting thing, and we're going to try to march in with this. Now, I have, let's see, I have 2, 4, 6, 7 strength points, but I have a 2-star leader, so I'm allowed to command, I think it's 10. So I'm allowed to try to take my forces into there. But I've got to worry about the fact that I've got militia and fencibles here. So I'm going to be rolling a die because I'm crossing the U.S. border. And let's see. I get a 1. That means I'm going to lose half my militia or fencibles. Okay, so I have quite a few actually. That's 5. round any fraction down. So I'm going to lose 2. I got a problem in that I don't have enough fensible counters to make change. So I'm going to have to leave 2 of these fencibles behind, which is okay actually, as I march in on the attack. Now, what about local troops? Sacket Harbor is one of these, what are they? Country towns. A country town means I get a die roll divided by 2 worth of forces. I'm being attacked, so let's see what we get. I roll a 9, these are rounded up, so I'm going to get 5 locals. That's this counter, and honestly, I'm going to keep these close by because I think they're going to be needed a lot. All right, and that is with Command C over here. So I've got like 9 militia against a force. These are not considered militia, the fencibles. So this is a reasonable force, but of 5 strength points. Let's see what we get for combat. I'm not allowed to just withdraw. Okay. So both sides are in supply. We're right on the river in both cases, actually. This river here supplies us, I think. Uh-oh. Okay, maybe the U.S. isn't in supply. Let's get that road back where it goes. See, the U.S. does not have water supply here because I don't control the lake, so I can't trace back this way. I don't know if I can trace here, but this isn't going anywhere. So I've got less than normal supply. I've got kind of the road supply. It's not a big deal. That means I can supply like 10 units. I don't have that, so that's not a big deal. Okay. So half of the U.S. troops are militia, so they have a -1. The Brits are getting +2 to their die roll for the lake being under their control. This is not a sea movement attack. Okay. We have no cav and no artillery, and I guess it's going to be +2 to -1. Let's look at our strength points. We're only at 5 strength points here, but we get a +2 to the die roll. And they're at 9 strength points at a -1. Tactical ability is a 2 here, and we know that replacement leader is a 1. Let's see what we get. +2 gets me to the 9 table. So it's going to be a 3 and 2 asterisks. And -1 here gets me on the 4. That's going to be a 1 and an asterisk. Okay. I do 1 casualty to the Brits. It has to be a non-militia. I think that can be offensibles. I'd rather take them because they're easier to replace. Whereas this is going to take 3 losses, 2 of which have to be non-militia, but there aren't any non-militia. I'm going to take it in my local forces because I'm forced out of here anyway. So taking losses on them doesn't really hurt me. And now I must retreat from Sacket Harbor. I'll fall back. This space has just been taken by the English. We'll put a little flag there for that. Okay. If there were any ships in Sackett's Harbor, they would be destroyed at this point. I could sack my leader, but there's no need for that with a replacement leader. He gets sacked as soon as I put someone there. So what about victory points for this? Let's see. Okay, this isn't going to explain it very well. Things like major battle and such, I have to see in the rolls because they're not explained on the charts as well as they could be. So, a land combat is devastating if the enemy lost 5 or more. That didn't happen. It's a major battle if you won and you gained 2 more asterisks than your opponent. That happened. So, the English or the Americans are pushed back, and not everything was destroyed. Is there a leader loss check? I don't seem to remember any means of leaders disappearing except I know naval leaders can be captured, but I don't seem to remember anything about leaders dying normally. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it's just card play by the way this is worded. Okay, so that was a semi-successful attack, really. I took Sackett's Harbor, which is an important location, and I got myself a point over here, which is kind of nice. I don't know what else is going to happen. I'm going to take a little bit of a break at this point, but yeah, the big thing right now, though, is the English have so few cards. Oh, I wanted to bring up these minor campaigns because in most of these CDGs of this era, a campaign means you get to move multiple leaders or something like that. This isn't. It allows you to order a leader who gets 5 additional points of inherent supply and control. So he can take 5 more troops with him than he normally would be able to. And he also has an extra 5 units he can bring into battle, as if he's got a better supply situation than maybe he would have. That's all it gives you. Big deal, not big deal, it's hard to tell. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. All right. Okay. Spent a lot of cards here, all kind of at once, trying to see what I did. The U.S. used this one to build up some forces here, here, I believe. Lafitte was used to pump up some Navy forces. He's actually got a schooner and 2 brigs. He's trying to build Perry a bigger fleet so he can take Lake Erie. The Brits have to worry about that, actually. The Brits were able to pass quite a few times because of all the U.S. forces. So then an artillery unit put in Buffalo, which is legitimate because I'm allowed to do it in a country town or with an expedition. And then finally the U.S. spent a 1-point card to build a fort here at Oswego. But now the Brits are kind of having to play cards. Actually, they buried 1 card. They buried this U.S. government goes bankrupt. This is a nice card. It'll give them a lot of points for their next time. And in the long run, it means a marker on the victory track if I can hold on to it long enough until I have 3 of the 4 territories. No, it's got to be full blockade. Well, I banked a nice card. That's about it. As far as advancing anywhere, it's so damn hard in this game, which is good because otherwise it would be terribly unrealistic if you had, the Brits taking advantage of this and just sweeping their way down. But it's very, very tricky for me to, make this move forward, say on Champlain, without taking the naval action there. Well, I don't have a fleet there yet. So I'm beginning to feel like I have to build my navies up with the Brits, and that's where I'm going to start spending some of my points. I'm going to actually throw the minor campaign into that. I'm holding this card kind of in reserve, but I think what I want to do with it is spend it for its effect. It's going to raise peace 2. The Americans had to throw their actually blows. That's out of the game now for the whaling fleet. But this peace at any cost advances their peace by 2. It advances the British peace by 1. It's kind of an interesting factor here. You don't want your own peace to move forward, but by weakening your own demands, essentially, you make the game end a little quicker. So as long as you can kind of advance more slowly, you won't get as severe a victory, but you'll still get a victory which you maybe wouldn't get if the game plays out too long. Plus, I want to start cutting into the U.S. Card hand. So I'm going to build some navies and then use the peace at any cost. I've already banked a card. For the U.S., do I want to bank this or do I want to launch an attack? Do I want to bank this, which is a really useful naval card? It allows me to do a reaction to pull my fleet in to maybe cut off an enemy force or something. Or do I need the points right now? You know, it's a hard call. If the other guy gets the jump on you, he can kind of bring his navy into power and dominate things in a way that you don't want to allow to happen, I guess. It's hard to tell, but you certainly, navies are a risky thing. So Presque Isle here, if this falls, I lose the ships I'm building there. So I got to kind of make sure I don't lose Lake Erie. On the other hand, making the attack, this is going to take my big card if I make this. Oh, no, it's Van Rensselaer. I can use him. So I could hold on to my big card. I used a point somewhere or another to get myself a new leader with that force. So, a lot of mixed choices here. If I advance from Buffalo and fail, I could very well end up losing my navy. That probably is worse than otherwise, even though I built myself an artillery here for Van Rensselaer. Bury things out with nothing really happening. Brits played their piece at any cost. You can see the effects on the track over there. And the Americans ended up banking both their cards. The reaction card was too valuable. That big 5-point card, man, that's just too much to leave out, to actually use at this point. Yes, I could get myself a couple of builds towards my Lake Erie production, and I'd really like to complete that. But it's easier to use little cards, isn't it? I don't know. So we're going to move into September, November. Let me make sure there's no end of turn stuff that I got to do. I don't think there is until winter. Certainly last turn I don't think I did anything specific. It's kind of hard to tell. The way this is written out, there's no real good sequence of play. There's this turn sequence thing here. But it kind of doesn't really, I guess you just begin the next turn. So we're going to get our cards. And that's about it. So it's kind of, the thing that I was kind of thought was interesting here is, my worry was, hey, you just want to bank all your cards, right? It's nice to bank your cards, but you can't really afford to. Why can't you afford to? You can't afford to because somebody can take out your naval assets. And once you bank a card, unless it's a reaction, you can't play it. It's left for next turn. It's perfectly safe, though, for the Americans to bank their last card because they know they're going to get the next action anyway. But they could get kind of a double turn type of situation. So if that last card was going to give them a significant advantage, the problem that I'm seeing here is the guy with the artillery has a bunch of militia with him. He doesn't really want to try crossing. He might have the advantage if he does, But this is a pretty potent fort. He's got a better one. But, you know, if he wins, it would be great. That's the problem. But what he doesn't have... Yeah, no, he can connect right through there. There's that little waterway, I think, allows him to supply through it. He doesn't need the lake supply to really continue. So if he loses, though, he might lose this. And right now he's got a nice little blockage in place. You can see almost nothing's happening. I think that's kind of neat, actually. As we enter this, the September-November turn, new hands of cards a little smaller. The season is very determinate in how big a hand you get. I kind of like that pattern, given that there are modifiers to it and everything. It all hangs together kind of neat. So far, I'm very impressed with the card play aspect of this game. One thing that I know from other CDGs of this kind of nature, the winter is coming, and sometimes you have to prepare for it. I don't feel like anybody's really out there, but I do have to think about what kind of supply I have. So somebody out here like here, well, he's got a river line going down here. I think this is sufficient for him. But you don't want to get yourself caught kind of outside of the supply routes. Everything looks okay right now. It's just a, gosh, you know, where is it a legitimate route and where is it not? I'm trying to remember what the blue dashed line meant in particular. Other than being a wilderness trail, it's a naval connection. I don't quite recall. I remember looking something up about that, but this is not a good rule book to find things, so I'm going to kind of ignore that. I don't think it's a big deal. What's kind of difficult is to see, is this a river line here? I believe there are river lines there, which would have effects on supply, but it's almost impossible. I mean, it looks like a river, right? But I can't tell for sure if that is indeed a river line. Any other path will do except wilderness trails. Yeah, I'm going to say that these are wilderness trails anyway, so you can't supply by them. They're automatic on the supply. All right. Such is life. However, the lake here gives you supply, but this one won't because of that wilderness trail, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe the blue somewhere says that works as a supply path. Again, I can't recall what that is, and it is very difficult to cope with these rules. They have almost no reference capability at all. There's no index into them, nothing. And they would be difficult to index. The best it could give you is a number. I'm trying to look for this situation, and I just do not know. Wilderness movement. The blue affects your chance of moving on it. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the wilderness trails are all waterborne, so they obviously are not supply sources here. But are the big blue ones better supply sources because they also happen to be the blue dash lines? Nothing seems to indicate that. So my feeling is anything west of here is actually out of supply, which includes Fort Fort Mackinac there, it would be out of supply. That's my guess. Alternatively, if you want to say you can actually run supply on Lake Michigan, hey, all for it. But then why can't you run it down all the wilderness trails? And I don't know the answer to that. All right, anyway, got an interesting card here, the David Parrish card. I had to look this one up. He was basically a financier. It's got an interesting aspect to it, though. When the card is on the map, there's a +1 card from then on for the U.S. player. He'll always draw an extra card. However, there's going to be 4 markers placed over here in the Niagara region, I'm sorry, the St. Lawrence Seaway region, which if the U.S. ever enters any of those spaces and is conducting the war there, the card gets reversed. They end up at -1 card for the rest of the game instead. I don't think the U.S. wants to play a card like that at this point for the event. What I am going to play instead is this Corrupt Contractors. It allows me to kill a card from the British hand. Now, 3 is probably better than whatever I'm taking from the British. I don't know. But, and it's at random, it can shake up their hand. It can take out one of their held cards. And I feel like the Brits are the more active at this point in the game, for whatever reason. So, I don't have a 6-sider sitting on me. They're going to lose Davy Crockett. Not a terribly valuable card at all. Pity that. And we go on to the British turn. Play has a lot of thought at this point in the game. The Brits actually played this New England Thriftiness, let them draw 2 new cards, and then went with a 2-point card to sail out into the North Atlantic. The cards they got were not terribly good. This one might be neat. This one could prevent an attack if I'm really worried about one, but I feel like I'm in the stronger position right now. So, I ended up breaking even points-wise and not really getting much out of it. What? Wait, no, actually losing points. No, breaking even. This is a one-time? No. Nope. And then I realized, whoa, I'm thinking about building troops and I see all these. These all went away at the beginning of the turn. So let's just get rid of those. Oh, those are the David Parrish counters to indicate where you can't go. At this point, I'm looking at the U.S. trying to figure out, how I can counter this. I'm kind of worried about Boston actually being attacked. So I think I'm going to have to raise troops to handle the situation. Hartford's also in potential danger now. Realize I can build up a lot of militia. There's a local militia in the area that's guaranteed pretty much unless I roll a 0. But it strikes me that the invasion can just happen, and there's not a lot I can do about that. Actually, no. I don't want to do this. I can't invade there. Shit. I don't have the blockade in place. Yeah. So I don't know what I want to do. This, I think, costs all my movement to go into. It's wilderness. I think it's wilderness and I can't move there. I don't know. Jesus. All right. I'm going to have to look up the New Brunswick rule. Wherever the hell that is. Because here's the problem, is they don't clearly state what is settled and what is wilderness. This has a town in it, but there are, little locations out in the wilderness. These, I think, are wilderness locations, yeah. Maybe that has to be settled because it has a town in it. Certainly, St. Augustine has one too, but the definition of what is settled areas and what is wilderness is just not clear according to the map It really isn't. The only differentiation that I could tell between what are obviously wilderness territories and what are obviously settled territories is the amount of detail of the river lines and everything that are in the map in that area. Now, it could just be that there's just a lot of waterways here that are scraped out on the map, and that's all that's being represented, that the terrain is a lot more interesting on the East Coast than it is as you go out to the flatter lands in the Midwest. I don't know. I haven't been able to find that yet. Again, this is a problem with the way the rules are organized. You know, I remember something, I've got no index into them, I've got no way of finding them. There's very little numerical breakdown anyhow. All these pictures and everything make it harder for me to remember what I saw, perhaps. I don't know. I really wish it had the old SPI case format or the gamers type style of that. This is really hideous. It's like, as I said before, Fantasy Flight rules set for, you know, a game that really is too complicated for it, although most Fantasy Flight games are too complicated for it too. It's fine with Power Grid, although that's horrible rules as well, but it just doesn't work with this. Okay, so where I'm at now is actually confusion in the rules, because they talk about the green shading civilized Indian areas. Some are traversed by wilderness roads and rivers. Really? Okay, what are wilderness roads? All I got here is these frontier roads. These aren't wilderness roads. Wilderness trails are these things. Who the hell knows? Maybe a change in terminology or something was put into place. But yeah, this is really catching me as not quite what I want. Anyway, I'm just gonna say fuck it. I don't think that there's any way. I remember a rule that you could move from New Brunswick into St. John. I don't think there's any way to see it as anything other than settled if you're allowed to do that. So that's how I'm going to treat it. And, you know, the idea of actually finding the actual rules for this game within the rule book, nah, you know, they're just not going to be there. And I think that's actually a lesson to be learned. Games that have glossy rules tend to have bad rules, you know, not necessarily a huge amount of errors. There may not be, although my experience has actually been the opposite with war games that try to use glossy rules. Bad up thinking again, Lincoln's War here, but once you know, make this decision to go with the glossy format, you probably have the same kind of thinking of, well, let's try to make this so it's not so intimidating, you know? Well, it may not be intimidating, but it's useless when you're trying to find stuff to have things just, you know, in this disorganized paragraph style. Again, another person who does it like that is Martin Wallace. This isn't quite to his level of, I don't think. It's impossible to find stuff in it. And it's probably not worth it. So I am going to allow this. This moves out 2 and then 4 to here. There are no roads or anything, so that's the cost. And I'm going to start moving him down the coastline. He can't do the sea movement for obvious reasons. And that puts me in a similar position with the Americans. But I do have the problem, I have the problem of Boston, but I don't really have to worry quite as much. I could throw up a defense, say, here at Portland, and that's probably sufficient, especially if I can get a fort or something there. The initiative over in the British players' hands, I can't pass because I have more cards than them, but I played the Stung by a Wasp for the USS Wasp's attack, or attacks, which dropped the British peace rating down towards us. That's the only card I knew what I wanted to do with. The rest of these, you know, some of them, Parish, I probably don't want to use for the event. This I definitely don't want to use for the event, but I don't really know what I want to do with my points. If the Brits keep pushing down here, I've got to raise forces. Not necessarily to defend Portland, but Portland's a good choke spot here. But I don't want to start expending defenses there at this point. I can't build my fleet at Oswego because I'm in too risky a position. If the British attack there, I lose my constructions. I could keep building the Presque Isle fleet under Perry. I'm a little reticent to build militia because I'm getting close to the end of the year, and it just seems like I'm gonna lose half of them anyway. I don't really want to raise up a bunch of militia that I'm not going to get to use very much. So I'd rather bank cards for later or whatever. So at this point, I'm just kind of not willing to expend the cards on any action because I don't know what the Brits are going to do with their points. I think I've got something fairly major going on here. I've just triggered the big 5-point card, using that to activate Dearborn here. And he's going to move up because this is a river transport. He can go 1, 2. He can pick these up, I think, because he outranks them, I hope. He'd better. I can pick up Hopkins's command and add it to my command. That was 2 movement, 3, and I'm still traveling up Champlain to 4 here. Now I've just crossed the border, so that causes an issue, like we had before. The English spent their activation building a fort at Sacket's Harbor, which is kind of iffy. They need to get it started if they want to fortify it, but the Americans have artillery there, so it's kind of more painful. A 9 means I get in there for good, under good condition, which means now I'm going to be attacking. This is Ile-aux-Noix. Why am I attacking here? I'm attacking here because this is the one place that the English can get control of Lake Champlain. Lake Champlain is their route down to the Hudson, or a route down to the Hudson. I've got this kind of fortified already, and opens up, you know, all the key areas of the American. A lot of key victory points are here, including places like Albany, but then down here. So I would not like to see that kind of stuff fall, and this is sort of a preemptive strike, but it also puts me damn close to Quebec and is going to panic the Brits from their more offensive actions, I would guess. Okay, so I guess we do the fight. Because this is not a game with all kind of complicated movement and combat rules, which I like. There's no, you know, interceptions and crap like that. Now, that adds a lot of complexity to a game. So let's see. I've just struck there. They've got 2 strength points. I've got leader D here. He's mainly militia. He's got 5. He's in supply. He's under command, so he can use it all. Let's see if we got anything important here. Nope. Okay. Well, both armies are the same size, and both armies have the same. Oh, I don't have to use Dearborn. I could use Hopkins, who's equally good tactically. Okay, so both armies have a 1-point leader. This is not terribly good for the Americans, actually. They got a -1 on their die roll. The Brits have a +2 for controlling the lake. This is not going to work well. I thought numbers would matter, but they do not matter enough. So +2 for the readies, which puts them at 7. That's going to give them 2, and -1 here. I do nothing. The Americans are going to take 2 losses. I do not have to distribute any of them because there's no asterisks on the non-militia. So the militia take the loss. Did anything happen from this battle other than Dearborn getting himself kind of drubbed? That was an expensive operation in terms of card for not a terribly good effect. Huh? Let's look up what that means for me. Not a devastating loss. The asterisks didn't happen. Okay, so no points change hands or anything like that. And, you know, I was kind of stupid. I could have thrown this momentary brilliance cards into play and gotten a good chance of making the attack. Now I'm in trouble because Dearborn's my commander, and the only way I can activate him is by playing this big 4-point card here. I'm in supply, so it's not that big a deal, but I have mainly militia here. I'm not really numerically that superior. There's not a lot going for me here. I'm kind of surprised that I could attack with more than 2-to-1 odds and not get any kind of modifier off that. That's a little disturbing, to tell you the truth. I'm just not really used to this combat system yet, but that strikes me as very odd. Forgot to roll for local militia. That might have actually lowered the Brits' result here. This is one of them country towns, so it's almost assured to have had some. And I think I have to take them. So I would have had 3 more militia. That would have put me at the same result, and actually that would have dropped my value. It would have been the same overall result, because I got a 2 here, I would have gotten a 2 here. And now the local militia go away anyway. Sure, I don't have an option. See, the way this is written, your opponent has the opportunity to raise local militia, but then it says the area's owner rolls a die. Is this a choice? Is it not? I would say let it be a choice, because you could move the regulars out and not allow the militia to join up with you for the main battle, but you're taking a risk there. So I didn't actually have to call them up, is kind of important. You know, something I'm thinking about here, it's just kind of burbling in my mind, and I'll probably bring it up again as it becomes more a congealed thought, but it has to do with the victory conditions. Now, in the long run, owning stuff matters. I didn't really go over this too much, but you get points for each area you control at the end of the game. So to some extent, controlling area is important. But in terms of getting this thing in your advantage early on, you don't necessarily need to make deep incursions. You could make little attacks, gain points all along the border, and then fall back to your defensive line, which is actually kind of historical in some cases. It would certainly behoove you to be able to drive deeper, get the additional points for Albany, get down into Hartford or whatever. No question about that, and if you can hold a chunk of the enemy's territory till the end of the game, that's going to be a massive victory point advantage. But without doing that, you can still grab a lot of local victory points without making any major incursions and without necessarily holding territory. You don't have to hold territory to modify the peace values. And then if you've got an advantage and you don't lose points significantly over here, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Another fuck up, and I'm realizing this location is not on Lake Ontario, it's on Lake Champlain. The US controls Lake Champlain, so that actually was 2 points more down. It's only a 1, and the US would have caused 1 as well. I'm gonna have to recoup points for that. One thing that I noticed is I am out of British troops here now. I was planning to draw a leader, but I actually think I don't have any reinforcements to play in here. This is troublesome. I have this force here at Montreal that I could bring into play under Prevost, but I would have to play my big card to bring Prevost down. He might be my best answer right now, but I think the US is going to continue pressing their advantage. They're facing only 1 unit. If I do what I did, which I'm not going to do, I drew a leader and created a force. I can't afford to do that. I actually got a good leader, but I need to defend this location, And I think that means that I'm launching a counterattack instead with Prevost and using my big card to march him in. If I don't win this, I'm in trouble. The Americans can't just swing up to Montreal easily, but they can get there. Two, because there's no river there, but then there's water transit here. 3 and 4 to Montreal, it looks like. Oh no, this is all Montreal? Ah, jeez, I can't tell. I think this is a separate area from the map. The map is really problematic. So I'm gonna have to leave a strength point from Prevost behind. I'm gonna put that here. And now I have to look at local militia to see if I can use them on attack. I don't believe so. I believe the local militia will only help defend. So I'm going to launch my attack here, and we'll see if we can get this right. The problem, of course, is I don't have Champlain. So let's see what we got here. We got Prevost with 4 strength points. He's not crossing a boundary, so I don't have to worry about that. Against 4 strength points under Dearborn. So we're both on the weak table. We're both in supply. More than half in militia. The Americans get a -1, but they get a +2 for the lake that they control. And that puts them to a net +1. The Brits are fine. Leadership. We're both 1s. So we'll both be on that table, except I want to win this big. This is my only way to do this. I'm going to increase my leadership to a 2 for Dearborn. So the U.S. has that +1 on the 2 table instead. And wow, we roll well. We're going to get 3 and 2 asterisks versus 1. So Dearborn's going to take another militia loss. And Prevost takes 3, 2 of which are asterisks. Boom, boom, there goes some regulars. There goes a militia. He's been defeated. He's got to leave here. He really doesn't have a safe place to go at all. I don't know what this thing is. This is the division. I think just the longitudinal line. I guess. I don't know what this is. I don't think this is a division that affects maybe some sort of indexing into the map locations. So you could write down where something is. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a gazetteer or anything like that to help you find locations like Mackinac that I couldn't remember where they were. So, shit. I think this is the whole Quebec region up here. I don't see any dark lines that prevent it. So I've got to fall back to Quebec, or the Americans are going to be in good shape. Now, did they just win a battle? Well, I don't remember how many losses I inflicted. I did 3 to 1, and I did 2 more stars. I think I'm going to get some points off this. I won the combat and I gained 2 more asterisks. That's one space. And I did not cause tremendous losses. So that was a major victory or something. I don't remember what the term is. Yeah, that was a major battle victory for Dearborn. Nice. Now, I don't know what happens to the naval leader here. I think he's just sort of non-existent unless, if I get it back, he comes back into being able to be used. I'm going to flip this over to help remind me that I can't take that easily. But that was a British action that put them there. So now we're in kind of a neat place. The Americans, not a lot of British cards, and an open route to Quebec and Montreal, either of which is very appealing. The problem? I'm not going to be in supply if I push onward into either of these locations. I've got to kind of worry about my back end. The other thing, I'd be using my momentary brilliance card to keep pushing onward. Probably worth it, but just a you know, how much do you want to do this? Do you have additional troops to throw into place? What can you do at this point to you know, continue this advance? Because it's very, very appealing to try to push forward here. The Brits have almost nothing to do because I have no reinforcements. Now I could move these guys along the lake to here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of playing the militia for the Indians to just raise this leader, I'm gonna throw one of these good American cards, and I'm gonna shift 2 more strength points out of here. Now one's going into C, one's going into D. So let's see what we got here. It's 1 to here, 2, 3, 4, and I get up there. What are my places? G and D are my 2 people. G can take the fencibles, I guess. I don't know which is which. These are, I can't tell what's what. I think these are the militia and these are the fencibles over here. And then I can flip this over and that'll allow me to raise more troops later, because one of my biggest problems is I'm out of counters. Part of that being that these are all spread out. But yeah, I'm in a really tough position in terms of my counter mix for the Brits. The Americans have a lot easier counter mix in terms of their militia, etc. And that's going to throw it back on the Americans. Now they're facing heavy forts, leaders, and some troops. There's going to be some local militia, almost certainly raised up. Those are major cities, aren't they? Which are a full die roll. They better both be. Yeah. So I don't think Dearborn is likely to do this. This card is very sweet as a combat card. I would rather not expend it to get Dearborn moving. So he's going to kind of slow down here. And now I got to figure out what the hell to do with my other cards. And that's not obvious to me at all what I'd want to do. So I'm going to put this up here and think for a while. Finishes up without a whole hell of a lot happening. Played some cards for points. The English upgraded. Well, they moved some of the fencibles that were here to continue fortifying Quebec and Montreal. But not a lot of... I had already made the decision with the Americans not to pursue that. I did bury a couple of useful cards, nice reaction cards, that I'm planning on saving. The English ended up burying their 1-point reaction, the Militia Fear of Indians card. The U.S. used their cards, mainly the point cards that they had, for Perry's little squadron here. They even threw a gunboat into place. They way outclass these couple of schooners that Barclay has out on the lake. I'm expecting a low value card to be used to send Perry out there. I don't want to use, you know, either of these. These are useful cards. So I'm going to wait until winter to take that shot. The Brits are in a lot of trouble out there on Erie. On the other hand, I can't move between Erie and Ontario. There's a big drop that those wooden ships don't like. So, you know, the naval situation ends up kind of pinned down, essentially, to one lake or another. You can't just slip ships between them easily, which is good because the British control of Ontario is still pretty much unchallenged. Still got this force at Oswego, but there's not a lot there. Just a couple of, one schooner and a couple gunboats. There's Briggs over on Yo's force here, if I can find him. He's only got one brig. But, he outnumbers or outpowers the U.S. forces. I didn't end up building any new troops. That doesn't seem right. There should be a marker, I think, here. I believe I built... I'm not sure if frontier towns cause a marker. I built Voyeurs or Rangers, which I don't think cause the force restriction markers. I think you can keep raising them. Let me make sure of that. Country or frontier town? I think this was a country. Yeah, this is a frontier town. So theoretically there should be a marker there, but it's getting removed right now. No one else actually raised up troops. The English didn't pursue coming down that Maine coast or anything like that. So, yeah. Things move kind of slowly here. We're going to send this one up, and then I guess we'll start the winter turn. Now remember, when the winter, first of all, it's a small turn, and when the winter ends, I wish I had kind of just done this as an 1812, but the video is getting too long as it is. When the winter ends, then we have to worry about the supply situation. Right now it looks pretty solid though for everyone. I don't think anyone's got a problem, unless I can't trace supply over this lake, which is troublesome if it's the case. And I think it is actually the case. I don't think I can be there at the end of winter without taking reductions. Now, those reductions aren't that big a deal though. This is Force E. It's only a couple of strength points. I'm allowed to have 5 strength points in an unsupplied area. So the game's pretty damn liberal as long as you keep your forces, within small size. I'm wondering how people get promoted so far. I'm assuming it's by cards, but I'm just not seeing... Yeah, certain cards allow for promotions, so I haven't seen any yet.